Get up and howl about America and democracy. There is no America. There is no democracy. We no longer live in a world of nations and ideologies. The world is a college of corporations, inexorably determined by the immutable bylaws of business. The world is a business. And I have chosen you to preach this evangel.
For all my free market healthcare robbing, stock stealing, retirement fund fucking with niggas. Fuck you little credit card scam and jewelry stealing, crack selling, liquor store robbing motherfuckers. Shout to the homies, Carnegie, OG, Willie Randolph Hearst, Baruch, Rockefeller, the real Rockefeller, my main bitch Leona, bought a little Louis the 13th. Scott Rothstein, Jack Abramoff, hold your head. My Rothschild niggas, let's get this money. I spend my day peppering America overseas. Pension for the workers, nigga, please. Embezzlement, etiquette, private settlement. I'm better with Confederate rhetoric from my mansion in Connecticut. Foreclose if it close out the tenement. I twist words like a speech impediment. I hope you got good credit, bitch. If not, better get a new job with benefits. While I play golf with niggas and get cheddar with. New money buys brand new carrots. My old money bunch of great grandparents. You got grills in your mouth, I ain't mad at you. I own every gold mine in South Africa. Thanks, baby, you made me $1 billion. Plus, I own a building for each one of my children's children.
We're going to go ahead with our topic. What is the Bilderberg Committee? What is Bohemian Grove? Both of these events take place in summer. In fact, the Bilderberg Committee is that they meet in about a week or so. And what are they? Well, let's start off with the Bilderberg Committee. What's the Bilderberg Committee? The Bilderberg Committee is where some of the richest people on the planet meet and pretty much decide how they're going to run the world. They have stakes in many giant military budgets. Their investments go into many militaries' cost expenditure. Their cost. What they practically do take care of financially. A lot of it is pretty much playing all the military, all their military operations, and they don't really pay for them per se, but they plan them, and they plan all the wars. They at least have a say in them. Let's say they do. They do decide what wars are going to be fought for what resources, and one of the main things they do is commodity control. The commodity control is they pretty much set the prices of what foods and many other things are going to be sold at, and they pretty much make a set price, and no one can disobey that price. If anybody does, like what you saw in Venezuela selling oil and not the Bilderberg price, that they were selling at $50 a barrel, which would eliminate people in the petrodollar plan, which their oil is being sold in the petrodollar, and the OPEC countries, well, especially Saudi Arabia, the oil that they trade is on the petrodollar, and that's pegged right to the Bilderberg and all the NWO plans. So they make sure that's still a thing, and that's of course how they keep their New World Order. A running thing is by, with that petrodollar, making sure that all the commodities in the oil are traded in the petrodollar. When Venezuela went against that and sold it at a different price and started to shift the oil trade away from the OPEC and from Saudi Arabia and back into other countries, that caused the Bilderberg to get very angry. The Bilderberg go into all kinds of stuff. They are one of the most powerful organizations on the planet. They have about a little over 100 people usually go there to the Bilderberg Committee. All richest people, presidents, all kinds of stuff go there, and that's how they plan the New World Order, is practically via the Bilderberg Committee. Bilderberg Committee this year meets in Copenhagen, Denmark. I believe they start the 29th, which the Bilderberg Committee, people know what's up, and that's why people are protesting it. People they now have gotten the gist of what it is. Their jig is up with the Bilderberg Committee, and people have finally woken up to what it's about and how it's pretty much about turning everybody into the slaves of the New World Order. Say all things I can. It's one of the most powerful organizations on the planet. The Bilderberg Committee was founded sometime in the mid-1900s with all kinds of people. I know I was on 2 nights ago with Cole and Luca Piel, and Luca was trying to say that the Nazis, were not part of this cabal or whatever. Well, you can't deny the Nazis were directly involved in founding the Bilderberg Committee. They're people. It was one of the things that it was kind of like the people when they knew that Hitler was going to lose the war. They pretty much put a couple of these people into the Bilderberg Committee, made this new thing out of it, and he was talking about how communism is being used by the New World Order. Well, the Bilderberg Committee was founded directly in response to communism. It's an anti-communist organization from its root. It was about it was pretty much making a opposition to the Soviet Union and pretty much pro-United States government in Europe. Pretty much, it was that fight between West Europe and East Europe, Eastern Bloc and the Western countries, and it was to establish the Western countries' foothold on the region. Bilderberg Committee say, it's pretty much the secret. It's a secret puppet master behind the curtain. That's what they are pretty much when it comes to. They pretty much dictate what political things also go on in the countries that they have influence in. They can extremely control that. And I'll tell you, the primaries in the United States elections are rigged. If you wonder how Ron Paul, even though he had all the support in the world in the United States, he had all signs, when you look on paper, as the election actually went the way they say they do, show Ron Paul should have been the Republican nominee and should have faced Barack Obama in the election. But they made sure Bilderberg, because that's kind of the deadline before the Bilderberg of the election year. That's when they want to make sure that both their candidates are the pretty much elite controlled candidates. What's the deal with Romney and Ron Paul? Right before the Bilderberg Committee of 2012, Romney was decided to be the nominee pretty much. He already had been, that was pretty much decisively him being selected. He already been selected at that point. It's kind of their deadline or when they actually choose if it comes down to that, I think. In 2008, when it was Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, now both of them are obviously elite pawns, but Barack Obama was chosen by the Bilderberg Committee for some reason. I think they had different plans. I mean, they wanted to put Hillary Clinton probably after Barack Obama, not before, for some reason. So it's known that it was right after they returned from the Bilderberg committees when the Democrats announced that it would be Barack Obama would be running for them. Now, here's what this really means. If they rig the primaries, that means that the general election doesn't matter if it's rigged or not, because everything before it's rigged. So those two candidates, even if it's a legit election, which I don't think it really is. I've seen 2000 where that happened. I mean, even when the popular vote was going for Gore, Bush won, but it doesn't matter because both candidates were picked out to be, or may not, because that's what I'm thinking, that maybe Gore wasn't. Every sign shows he is, but they want Bush was in their plans and they did whatever they could to get him in there. Maybe that Gore wasn't the pathological liar that Bush was. I don't know. I still think he's a pretty big liar too. If you were under the Clinton administration, that was a lying administration. They're all big-time liars. This whole system's rigged. But they especially rigged the primaries. I can tell you that. The elections are rigged. The United States elections are completely rigged. we hope, we always, I see a lot of people in the truth movement that are saying, okay, well, if we get this guy, maybe we could change things around or whatever, but we'll never get that guy in because their primaries are so rigged and they're so distant from the general people. Just the way they're set up leaves it in the hands of a bunch of rich elite people, millionaires or whatever, and then in Bilderberg's case, the billionaires, to decide who's going to be chosen to, the two people that are selected that might, represent the people, which they all represent banks and corporations. But Bilderberg, I believe that's where they decide who's going to be in the next fall's election. Really funny thing. I mean, how many coincidences there's been. It's not funny at all, really. It's terrible that the Bilderberg Committee does this to our elections, and we let this organization do this to, completely undermine what our founding fathers wanted. And I think that maybe at the beginning, towards, around, I think 1913, 1912 was the first rigged election when the rich elite, the billionaires, that's what should have been, that's who they were, J.P. Morgan, all of them, made sure Woodrow Wilson won. Yes, they did the old-fashioned way of rigging elections, not so secretive as they do now. The old-fashioned way, you mean stuff in the ballot boxes. That's how they did in the 1912 election to make sure Woodrow Wilson won. And now it's Theodore Roosevelt, who more and more I read about his work and what he said, I think that Theodore Roosevelt was really maybe the last true American patriot when it comes to presidents that we've had, maybe next to Kennedy. He was the second to last one. Because I see what he wrote about lobbying. He was very against that. He almost, yes, he was an imperialist, which I stand against. I don't believe countries should impose on each other like the United States, like he wanted the U.S. to become the next empire, be all over the place, which might be actually against what I'm saying. He might have meant that in almost like the New World Order rhetoric, which that's what I think it could be also. But Roosevelt, though, he seemed very believing the old American way. But then again, yeah, he was too soft on corporations. He was definitely not like his predecessor, McKinley. And that's where the turn of the century was when you see America change from old, when we actually had a real system of election, when the real America turned into fake America, the one that the elite controlled America. And now this century, you wonder what's going to happen this century. It's already transformed. Now it went from free country to police state. Now I think it's this century turns into military dictatorship, and then eventually some clash where that all ends. Maybe we're freed again, but the ugly path in between, yes, it's going to be pretty ugly. I can see that. Bilderberg Committee takes place every year. People protest it. It's people know. Again, it's not too secretive to the fact that nobody knows that this goes on. You have all your main people, all your in this truth movement are there. Alex Jones, Mark Dice, or whatever. I think of a couple of the people I know actually on Facebook and that know me on Facebook have met Mark Dice. I envy you, and I don't go back to Mark Dice. I think I said this before, that there's people that think that he's not a real truth or whatever, and they always point to, I don't know if I talked about this, is how they always point to his personality as kind of rigid. And when I mean rigid, he's kind of, he can be kind of a dick at times. Yes, that is true. But I think Mark Dice has addressed this on his Facebook and stuff like that. And yes, just because someone's a dick doesn't make him a pawn or working for the other side. It just means that he can be said sometimes lousy for working at the truth movement because, he turns people off by having that personality. But I think people haven't seen what a real dick is before. And when I'm talking about personality, this guy might be a little bit mean to people about being sheeple at times. But I don't know. He might be. It's not like it can be worse. And yes, I think some people think that is a man on the street or whatever. Those videos that people think that's kind of dickish when he points out people's stupidity or whatever, or not people's stupidity, but people being asleep when they have stuff that's pretty easy questions and they completely get them wrong, or you ask them a question, or the fake petitions or whatever. I find it sobering, and it tells people that are woken up but don't realize that everybody else is not woken up about the true state of America. I think it's a sobering fact, these videos, but they're also funny. I talked to Mark Dice, like I posted to him before, and he agreed with me, he liked the status. Mark Dice, I've been trying to get on this network for a while. I don't know if anybody can get me an interview with him, that'd be great. But yeah, I don't know if he's going to be at the Bilderberg Committee this year, protesting. There'd be some people that would argue that he would be in there, but he's not. Let me also remind you, not too many people, period, are in the Bilderberg Committee. I think people realize this. There's only 115 people or so that actually get into the Bilderberg Committee. It's a very elite group. You have to have tons of money to be in there. And people protested. They know that it is supporting police state fascism. Again, like I said before, is that you can't deny that there was Nazi roots to the Bilderberg Committee, and that's what they're practically promoting around the world. That's what the West, NATO, United States government are promoting right now. Again, like they did all throughout the 20th century in South America, supporting fascist governments left and right. They're doing it now in Ukraine, the same deal. And the Bilderberg Committee is pretty much keeping, they pretty much just set the plans, and they also pretty much just start, they start all these operations to put all these fascist governments and keep the current ones, like the British police state or whatever. And they also, Bilderberg Committee, some interesting facts also that they don't have one set place, by the way. They go to many different places. I think they go to countries that, they don't go to like the United States or whatever, that people who are tired of being repressed would really protest. They go to Canada or something like that. Where those countries might, I think that these countries they go to are ones that are controlled by the New World Order, but they don't feel the repression like the United States do, because the government's not as repressive, but they are still pretty repressive, and still a lot of injustice goes on, like in Canada. I hear a lot of people, but these are kind of more people who are more liberal, I guess, think that Canada is this nice place, and it's a wonderland to the north of here, and everything's great there. It's not so much. People actually live in Canada. It sounds just like the United States. I'm said a little bit colder, and with free health care, that's about the only thing I hear better about Canada. And I hear that their free health care ain't that good either. But, the free health care is not a bad concept. It's just when you do it the Canadian way, and you have horrible wait times. Not every country does free health care as it that sucky. They sometimes have it better than the United States health care. But Canada's bad, I've heard. It's it's probably, like, looking at everything, probably Cuba's healthcare system in some ways could be regarded better than Canada's. Canada is pretty much just another United States, is still under a police state and everything. This is not police state. It's still a state of corruption. And that's where Bilderberg Committee's been there before. They don't go to somewhere like, where they would get a ton of protesters and where they would actually be in serious trouble. Would be somewhere in the United States. I think there's a lot of people awake here or very, the people who are awake here are very passionate, and they would protest. We don't have too many actually awake, probably, per percentage of this country. I mean, I say less than 1% are awake here, but they are very passionate people, and they would be protesting if the Bilderberg came to the United States, which in the recent years, I don't think they do that. They usually go to somewhere North Europe or Canada. In North Europe, it's probably one of those more, it's probably actually not one of the better ones like Norway. I think I don't know, what's it, Copenhagen, that's in Denmark. Yeah, there you go. That's Denmark, that's different. I don't know, this Bilderberg Committee is definitely it's definitely one of the main organizations, one of the main roots of all this evil from the New World Order is from the Bilderberg Committee. Founded out of the principles of fascism, practically, and elitism, and staunch anti-communism to the fact that you are fascist. If people are anti-communist and are just a libertarian, but then there's also they use anti-communism as a pretext for fascism, like they did in all South America and all those, like the Contra rebels. They call them fascists because they were working for the United States government. Their plan would probably be another military dictatorship. You know how many military dictatorships the United States government has brought up throughout the history of the 20th century? All throughout South America and Central America, just one after another of military dictatorships. It's ridiculous. Military dictatorships. Also, they brought them in. Oh yeah, Middle East. Let's say they brought them to Asia, I think, too. I mean, every corner of the planet was military dictatorships that the United States government had influence in at one time. It's scary. It's comical to see that people say that the United States government is working totally by itself for freedom and democracy. They think that the government's on top of everything. I get how they could see that, but that it's working for freedom and democracy. No, if you look at history, it's dictatorships left and right, a dictatorship here, and they have their people that can really control the U.S. government, like Tel Aviv. The Bilderberg Committee is one. Tel Aviv, I can talk about later on a different show. I did a show about that. I said the Israeli takeover America that was on my old network, and that was a while back, about how Tel Aviv actually controls the United States through AIPAC. Bilderberg Committee and Bohemian Grove are talking about. I'll tell you one thing: your family will be on vacation somewhere, or might not be on vacation because of that. Probably you're not on vacation, probably by the economic problems that these bastards up there have caused in the elite. But if you are on vacation, I bet it's not to these places like outside of San Francisco where the Bohemian Grove is, or to the Bilderberg Committee. I bet it's not. You're not going there in the summer. That's for the super rich elite to go to, and more the Bohemian Grove. I'll talk about this one now. The Bohemian Grove. What else can I say besides creepy? It's pretty much this place where all these rich elite men. It's mostly men dominated, but I heard there's also women there. And then there's the people that are kind of in between, like Hillary Clinton and Angela Merkel. They all go to this place out in the wilderness outside of San Francisco, and it's this club. It's called the Bohemian Grove. Is a club outside there, and then they do all these kind of rituals out there. They do all kinds of weird games and stuff like that, to the point that some people say that that those men out there are out there alone with other men for a reason. Which that's a topic that I wouldn't. I mean, that would be only on eyewitnesses. I wouldn't know about, and I don't think it's as important as actually what that signifies. Is that these elites have all these little clubs where they work together. People don't think rich people. What I mean by rich is like billionaires don't come together and have a plan, but they can tell you about the Bilderberg Committee of the Bohemian Grove because they don't know that these exist. It's that factor is that what this really is. It's really weird too when you see all the world's elite or whatever, the billionaires, the super rich, all there, doing different stuff, making plans. The Bilderberg Committee there, it looks like to be more of a retreat of Bohemian Grove, and the Bohemian Grove is more than just a retreat. But plus the games and everything, it is said, it's actually recorded, it's known, this is actually known, is that there's a 40-foot owl at the Bohemian Grove, and they burn it. And they also play creepy piano music and stuff like that. And they wear creepy robes and do some pagan rituals. They burn the owl, and they pretty much do an old pagan ritual. I think it's called a cremation of care. I think that is the one with the owl that they do. And it is said that is a sacrifice to Moloch, which is a satanic figure. And I definitely believe that they are. This is again, evil. They do worship some evil thing with the elite. They do satanic rituals. It's pretty much known now. I don't know if all these people are satanic within our tradition, but it's wrong, and it's very creepy, and they keep it really secretive. That they're bringing this negative energy here, obviously, or they're bringing the energy of evil, which fuels them. They probably believe that's going to bring them more luck to their plans. It's a very odd event for Bohemian Grove. Alex Jones supposedly in 2000 snuck on there, and that's where I'm putting quotations on snuck. I don't know if he might have been invited there, because I really do question Alex Jones' credibility. No disrespect to him, but there are some things that Alex Jones does that I can't exactly, that he says that I can't exactly condone. It's not like Mark Dice, where there's only a few things here and there that he does wrong. And I don't think it's because he's working for the elite. I think it's because he's just a douchebag at times. But he is sorry for being a douchebag, and it's not like he's not remorseful about being a douchebag at times. I'm not ripping on Mark Dice at all, but I'm just saying that's what I think people perceive of him, and I say he is definitely not trying to be that person. Alex Jones supposedly snuck on there in 2000. He with a camera, got some footage, pictures or whatever. I think he had footage. He did a documentary about this, like a 2-hour documentary about the Bohemian Grove and what he got from, what footage he got from there. I think that he might be legit. He might have went on there. He might not be legit and still have to sneak on there, or he might be fake, and he might be fake, and they let him on there, because I know that if you're a legit, they're not going to let you on there that easily. I don't know. I think there'd be more security, or they might just let want to be out there about that they do this at this point. They don't really care, but I think they do care, and they would have way more security than they did where he snuck up on there supposedly in the woods. He says supposedly pretty much one kind of implied that, or no, one of them kind of implied that he thought he was a male prostitute, which yes, I was saying the stuff that is not as important, but yet actually this is kind of important because this is what they do. Yeah, apparently do have prostitutes on there, including male prostitutes. It's definitely not a family event to no means whatsoever, the Bohemian Grove. And that's another little tidbit about that. Apparently that happened. That's his little story he told. That, I mean, there wasn't anything he got that was really any more than what we knew about there. I mean, I think people have spilled some beans about it that work there because, of course, they have employees and everything there at the Bohemian Grove. The Bohemian Grove, they go there, but they do the rituals and everything. They got footage of actually them, burning the owl there. Apparently, let's see. Apparently, another thing that goes on there. Apparently, some people outside of the club are allowed in. But I think those are the employees or people that are within the services of doing that. Alex Jones does tell a story, I believe, to RT about the Bohemian Grove. Again, it's not much more than what people already knew in the past about the Bohemian Grove. What would be more interesting is what they talk about there, if they're planning more stuff. And the Bohemian Grove happens later in the summer. That happens in, I believe, July, around that time, the Bohemian Grove. Summer, they do a lot of the stuff they'll eat. And while your family might be off of vacation, remember, they're playing in the New World Order. Just always keep that in mind. To keep trying to tell the truth, but, trying to tell the truth about the New World Order during the summer and any time of the year, hopefully. That's when I started, really talking on Facebook about the New World Order of last summer. And I went to the school year, and stuff definitely did change before the last school year. It wasn't exactly as popular, but I don't really care because I got to show who I really was when it came to what I thought politically. I'd always, last few years had believed a lot of the stuff politically. I mean, sure, I got into the more conspiratorial side, but with lack of a better word, or got into what the root of really a lot of the stuff, why is it that way, the world, and why does the United States government act the way it does. That was more like since 2012 I've known about that kind of stuff. And that's 2014, and, it's good to get this information out to your friends or whatever about what really this stuff is, the Bilderberg Committee. They need to know that the Bilderberg Committee, it's just a bunch of rich people. They go to the hotel and they do pretty much a meeting to decide how they're going to run the world. And that's not too shocking. It shouldn't shock anybody that rich people come together and have a plan. But the elite have many ways, actually. They run the world, but that's just one of the meetings. These two are two of the meetings they have. Now, some later time, I might actually go down into all these different organizations that are in the New World Order. All these I might do that next week or so. But I also plan on one of these shows exposing a fraud that really annoys me in what he says. And I know this guy's a fraud. It's not like Alex Jones that it's like, this guy may or may not be a fraud. I'm pretty sure he is a fraud, but there's a chance that he might be actually legit. Or Jesse Ventura, there's a couple seeds of doubt in there, but I'm pretty sure he's real. I'm way more sure than Jones that Ventura's real. But Glenn Beck, I know with all my heart, is a fraud. What he does and pretty much points, he makes the fake boogeyman of who the New World Order is. He talks about the New World Order every now and then in the Federal Reserve, but he would find this conversation about Bilderberg, and hopefully, he would find this conversation and joke about me saying that he's on the NWO payroll. But he's definitely on the Zionist payroll. He got the Zionist Defender Award, Glenn Beck. The dude's a fraud. I'm planning on doing a show sometime about how Glenn Beck is a fraud. He would definitely find this. He thinks the Bilderberg is not even a real thing, I don't think, or he thinks it's whatever the mainstream story is. Because I remember when Mark Dice made a video. Glenn Beck was posting one of Mark Dice's videos, but then he was pretty much mocking what Mark Dice thought about politics, and all. He pretty much was like, "Oh, we'll go after the Bilderbergers next." And then when he said, "Okay, Mr. Illuminati," when he was talking about to the other people, he pretty much completely mocked Mark Dice. I think it's after he already. I don't know who started the Glenn Beck Mark Dice little conflict there. I tell you, like Glenn Beck's not legit. He's a Zionist agent, and he tells people to beware of the socialist, the communist, but he never talks about the Zionist in there because he is on the Zionist payroll. He works for Israel. They'll have people shouting out everything. It's a socialist, it's a communist, it's this or this and that, but nobody will ever point out it's the Bilderbergers, it's the Zionists, it's the people, the Bohemian Grove, those people who attend that. It's all these different organizations. They have you point out the fake ones, meaning the ones that are not really at the root of it. Sure, they've used authoritarian communism in the past, I think, for their agenda before. But on socialism, I don't think that has much to do with the New World Order whatsoever, because people have this concept that it's the same thing. Authoritarian communism is very different. There's libertarian socialists like Noam Chomsky. That I see the same truthers who might say that will post Noam Chomsky's a lot of the stuff he says, but doesn't even realize what he is, and they would hate to find out what he really is. But I support what Noam Chomsky thinks about politics. But the truthers, some of the truthers will go point at they'll point at the socialist or whatever, thinking they're the same as a communist. Noam Chomsky opposes authoritarian communism, but he is a libertarian socialist, he's an anarcho-syndicalist, which is pretty much a very libertarian form of the left. And that's what Noam Chomsky is. The dude's very smart. I agree with a lot of the stuff he says. My friend Al actually interviewed him one time. It was a pretty interesting interview. Now, I do disagree with some of the stuff Noam Chomsky says, but he's right on a lot of things. Anyways, going back to how, about Glenn Beck and everything, we'll talk about, again, the organization he finds is a joke, or the two organizations he probably thinks are a joke. Let's go to one I don't think he talked about, but the Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove it's been in the mainstream of that this thing exists for a while. But people think it's just all the rich people hang out here or whatever. Nothing really happens. Burn a freaking 40-foot owl. I want somebody to please explain to me how that's not normal. A 40-foot owl that is a pretty much a representation. It's a pagan ritual. This has got to go back to way back in the time, and it proves the existence of secret societies in politics, in the global, in the geopolitical scheme that the secret societies are controlling. Because this is a ritual that goes back. Now, it might not be religious. I mean, that's up to you, what you think about it. But you do have to agree that this is something then ingrained from a secret society that they started doing way back. Really the Bohemian Grove is a secret society. Even though we know that it exists, it still is a secret society. And this is stuff secret society do is rituals and everything. And then there's all the other stuff that the Bohemian Grove does. It's weird. They play the creepy piano music. It's almost like something right out of a movie or something. You got the piano music playing, and you're creeping up on them. And their robes and everything. It's got to be so creepy. And Alex Jones actually did do that. That's some cojones on him. If he and creeps up on them in the woods at night. Because that would be something pretty creepy to see. You're just going through the woods, which going through the woods at night is pretty creepy. And all of a sudden you see them playing do 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 do, and then you see them burning this big creepy wooden owl statue, and they're on their robes and everything. And they're all making noise and probably doing chants and stuff like that. That's something beyond creepy right there. And again, that's your presidents and everything doing that really creepy shit at the Bohemian Grove. That's like Barack Obama, George Bush, all of them. And then also your elites like George Soros is probably there too. There's Hillary Clinton. I don't know if it's an all-male club, but you know what? Never mind, it's all-male. Hillary Clinton's in. You know, you have all these elites there. And I just want to know what else they do, because they have a very short documentation of what they actually do there, but it's all this side stuff, and this is only speculating what people say they do off to the side, including pretty much to the point. People say at the Bohemian Grove that the elites hire prostitutes, but that's actually right out of what Alex Jones witnessed, and that might be true. I also say that they pretty much run around nude and play their little games or whatever. I think that might be more just speculating. And I think that because there's very little eyewitness account. Again, I don't think too many people snuck on there, and that's what makes me question how Alex Jones got on there. But I think that's true. I think this is all true stuff of what they do. They do all stuff that you would not expect politicians to do, because they play their little straight-faced act, you know, but in all reality, they take that mask off and they're these creepy, they're these creepy pawns that are working for, they're working for all these, you know, like Bilderberg and the head, you know, Henry Kissinger, who runs that practically. You know, I mean, straight face, yeah, that's what I mean. It's just that the face that they put on for, you know, when they're actually doing the speech or whatever. And then we go to the other definition of straight, and that's something that is debatable. If they're even that, when they go to the Bohemian Grove, you know, all the stories that come out of that. Bohemian Grove, it's a lot of secrecy around it. Kennedy said that's repugnant in a free society. And, yeah, we should know what our politicians do in their free time. It's not everything they do in their free times, but at least the stuff like that, when they all meet together in their free times. I mean, we should kind of, I think we should know about that. When all these politicians decide to meet up on all these elites, and they might be determining, you know, they might be determining future stuff, that we should know when the Bohemian Grove, when the Bohemian Grove are meeting or whatever, and we should know. And we should know what goes on in there, so the public can decide. Wait a minute, we don't really like the character of this, and we're really starting to question the character of the politicians involved in it. Stuff like that. And it's a secret society that they're in. That's what we should know. We should know if they're in any secret societies, because that really starts to make us question their character. And I don't think politicians should be in secret societies. That's what Kennedy said, that politicians shouldn't be in secret societies. And they all are in one. It's called the Bohemian Grove. No, I think that it is it's not they do rituals there. It's definitely where they practice pagan satanic rituals, you know, / satanic rituals at the Bohemian Grove. And it's their little fun time, per se. But I also wonder if it's also like the Bilderberg Committee. Maybe not. I think the Bilderberg Committee is where they actually do all that stuff, planning the economy of the world, and what they plan to send the commodity prices and everything else, making it complete control for corporations, where it favors corporations. that's how they're going to set it up. And for their corporations to profit the most, they're not going to set it up where there's much real free trade. You know, it's corporatocracy. They make all the corporations dominating, and they make all the countries that they have influence in these corporate states, corporate state power merges, and then you end up with fascism. It's just like what Mussolini said. And then also Bilderberg Committee. There's the person that organizes the Bilderberg Committee. This is what people say. The Bilderberg Committee is organized by Henry Kissinger, one of the most despicable men ever lived. Killed so many people via bombings, sarin gas, all kinds of stuff. Did military coups. He pretty much made a war against North Vietnam. You know, there was already the war going on, but he pretty much made the military escalation of North Vietnam happen to where we actually went into North Vietnam and started killing all the civilians and everything. The United States, the United States Army to go in there. Kissinger did the coup, the fascist coups down in South America with Argentina, Chile, maybe Pinochet going to power. Pretty sure he was involved with all that. Kissinger, warmonger, against true free societies, and he is the one that organizes the Bilderberg Committee. Not surprising. That's why people think he has so much power and is near the top of this power ladder in the New World Order organization. You know, that whole organization, you know, with all those different sub-organizations, is that he is the top of the Bilderberg Committee, one of the most powerful ones there are. Kissinger, again, we've talked about him quite a bit, is that if we all actually personally saw him, we would punch him right in the face. He is a terrible person. He's lived to be 90 years old, and he's fat as a pig, 400 pounds. How does that happen? Again, that's where I think they also have some really elite medical care that the rest of the general population doesn't have, because this dude can live to be, 90 years old, and he's that fat, and then Hugo Chavez dies at 58 years old, and he wasn't exactly the definition of in shape, but I don't think he was like Henry Kissinger. And also, that also is a different question. That's going to go into the cancer weapon and all that deal about whether or not the CIA used the cancer weapon against Hugo Chavez, and that's a whole different topic. Henry Kissinger, though, this dude is pretty much the definition that the good die young. Yeah, the good die young is going to be around a while, because this dude is the opposite of good. There might not be any people that are pure evil or pure good, but this dude is one of those people that doesn't have too much good in him. He's near pure evil. Like, he's not like, I don't know, like JFK that's mostly good. That's such a good example of pure good. Somebody purely good like Joan of Arc or something like that was almost all good. It is not any of those type of people. He's the opposite. Henry Kissinger is practically right. He's right up there with pure evil. I can't even think of too many people that might be worse than him ever in history. Maybe he might be the most evil man alive. Right? He's about in a tie with David Rockefeller. I don't know. And David Rockefeller pretty much laughs about the cabal that he is involved in. Well, he didn't start, but he's involved in. He obviously didn't start. This goes back 6,000 years, but yeah, Rockefeller jokes about that in his memoirs. He's like, I'm involved in this cabal and everything, and people say that, and I say guilty as charged to David. And that's David Rockefeller. David Rockefeller, I gotta say to him, he's just an evil man. Same thing with Kissinger. Him, not personally, but his family was involved in the Federal Reserve. he was almost that old where he could have been involved in the Federal Reserve Act that his family was, and so was the Rothschilds, and then also and then the Morgan family. The Rothschilds, I guess that could also be, if you look at the most evil people alive. And also the most powerful is the Rothschild family. Rothschild family just financed most of everything. The richest people made alive is the Jacob Rothschild. Then, if we go to with other super powerful people, I'm thinking of another one that controls one of those major organizations like that. Whoever's head of the United Nations is also pretty powerful. And if you control NATO, I'm saying you're pretty evil too, because NATO is just one of the biggest warmongers ever. Either the United States Army goes there at the behest of the Rothschilds, or NATO goes there. And believe me, it's not like they're being forced to, the leaders of the U.S. or the leaders of NATO by the Rothschilds. It's like they agree to, because they're pawns. They're just yes men. I don't think they care one way or another, really. They just listen to whatever the Rothschilds tell them. And then, with U.S. presidency, or whatever Bilderberg tells them, whatever superior tells them to do something, they just do it, these pawns. That's what the Bilderberg makes sure that the presidential election is, to make sure another pawn is elected. It's the Bilderberg, all those are very responsible. There's the Tel Aviv, like a parasitic leech. I've seen the picture to the United States, and that's definitely true. With the USS Liberty, when they bombed that and tried to blame it on the Arabs and tried to get us into the Arab-Israeli war, but then the Russians reported what happened, and then that didn't happen. That's false flag attempt. We'll talk about all these people that are super powerful, but I think I've explained in this first hour what the Bilderberg Committee and the Bohemian Grove is. And I'm going to be going to break about 5 minutes or so. Maybe closer to 10 minutes, I might go to break. And after that, I want people to call in at 347-205-9576. That is 347-205-9576. And second hour, yes, callers definitely welcome. And also, another thing that I want to bring up before we go to break is if anybody has this, if anybody knows about the Stay Bold Radio Facebook page, and yes, we do have a Facebook page, please like that. I've been trying to get people like that. We are nearing 100 likes, which I think is pretty low for actually the base we do have on Blog Talk Radio, but we do want to spread the word via Facebook also, and that is Stay Bold Radio at Facebook.com. We do have a Facebook page there. Bring up more things is that Bilderberg is not like it's completely hush-hushed in the mainstream media. Yes, it's in our mainstream media, it's hush-hushed. Nobody knows about the Bilderberg Committee in the United States and mainstream media, or nobody talks about the United States mainstream media. Nobody knows in the U.S. In other countries, they know what Bilderberg is. In Russia, in their mainstream media, they talk about Bilderberg quite often. They actually talk about a lot of the New World organizations on RT quite often, mostly in op-eds and stuff like that. I see them talk about Bilderberg on their main articles. They kind of fence it on that. They kind of just leave it up to the reader to decide what they think about the Bilderberg Committee, which I agree is kind of wrong. They should be just plain out exposing them. Well, op-eds should do that. That's where they completely expose them. But so at least allow journalists to put what they really think about the Bilderberg Committee, not like censor it like American mainstream media would. And I think Putin is legit. I don't think he is a NWO pawn like many people are saying. He is working against the Rothschilds and the New World Order. I see Putin is now, Putin is stepping away from the petrodollar, which will cause some problems here in the United States, that's for sure. Petrodollar, when that collapses, the United States dollar collapses. And when the United States dollar collapses, that means the start of the North American Union. I think Russia just looks like they're writing themselves up because they know that that war that has been starting ever since the 40s between them and the United States, it looks like a day of it actually happening. It's becoming more and more real. Because the Cold War did stall out for a little bit, but it just has resumed. It's the second Cold War. Ever since 2012, Russia and United States relations have fallen apart completely. And they are now at a point of a second Cold War. And this time I think this will be the legit war. This is the time that actually it becomes a hot war. It might not be the first war that happens, a major war. There might be a bigger war, or not bigger, but a bigger war compared to the Iraqi war that happens in the Middle East between Iran, Syria, Israel, and the United States, and will be like that could happen next. It's smaller in comparison to the giant showdown way down. I think more way down the road. I think will happen between the United States and Russia. I think all these countries are fighting back against the Rothschilds' last stand right now. And the New World Order is Russia, Syria, Iran. And Syria, I know they are really stand against the NWO. They have, their people are awake. They educate their people against the NWO. They teach them about what all these secret societies are, like the Skull and Bones or whatever. They are educated. They stand strongly against Israel and Zionism. And I know some people think it's bad to stand against Israel, but because they stand against the Zionist occupation of the Palestine. People think, well, it's just giving back the land to Jews. That's when the Bible it says, but these are not the same Israelites that are talked about in the Bible. These are a different breed. These are the Ashkenazi Jews. They're not the Hebrews. The Hebrews are not in Israel. The Ashkenazi Jews are from Europe, and then they converted, and then they came to Israel. The Hebrews are in Palestine. The ones that Israel is occupying are the ones that the Bible actually describes, the Israelites. And the Israelites are being oppressed by Israel. So if you look at actually what's historically accurate, how people actually shifted, the Israelites are Palestinians. And yes, a lot of them converted to Islam way later down the road, so they're not Jewish anymore, and or Christian. Now there's a lot of Palestinian Christians. All the Christians are not in Israel. They're in Palestine. Christians are suffering by Israel. They're not being celebrated by Israel. They're suffering by the Zionist forces of Israel. They're suffering in many ways. Israelis have no respect for Christianity. They have no respect for any, besides, of course, Judaism, but they don't have much respect for Christianity or Islam, especially those two, because those are the Palestinians that they stole the land from, so the Palestinians are, of course, going to be hostile to them. And that's one of the major players in all this and all these major organizations. Always remember Tel Aviv is there. They're one of the major roots of the NWO. And also there's the city of London, there's the Vatican, D.C. Those are also major roots of the NWO. But there's also Tel Aviv. Remember that. And I'm sure that the Israeli leaders are at the Bilderberg Committee, if not one of the higher-up people in the Bilderberg Committee, and not the Bohemian Grove. I'm pretty sure they're there too, Netanyahu, and back in the day, Ariel Sharon. Ariel Sharon even said that they own the United States, and that's why they fear. That's why they don't fear the United States, because they Americans know that the Jewish people own America, which is true. That put that in terms, in other terms, the Zionists do own America. They own Hollywood. People think that's a joke. That when we say that, when Iran says that the Zionists own Hollywood, that's not a joke. They own big parts of Hollywood. That's one of their main. That's one of the main things that they own and they use as propaganda to the world, because most of the world watches Hollywood movies, and then to the Americans, because Americans of course watch Hollywood movies, and but of course there's also a lot of the world watches Hollywood. There's some people that don't. Well, I know we're getting off topic. I know we have 1 minute till it says we're in 1 hour live stream, even though that I don't actually go by what this says because this clock's a little bit off. That's on Blog Talk Radio. But yes, we're gonna have to accept callers in the second hour, which we don't have any callers right now in the second hour. And I do have to thank all the listeners here at Stable Radio, because I've noticed that we've been on a trend upwards, not like the last couple of weeks, but we did have a little bit of a trend going up in listeners. I looked at the stats, which is good from April. And I thank everybody who does listen to Stable Radio, and please share this network with your friends. And we're about a minute or so before I go to break. And yes, please do call in 347-205-9576, 347-205-9576, second hour. And we're going to go to break here. When I find a song to leave you guys on, well, actually, I might go 2 songs in, so it's going to be about 5 or so minutes before we go in. And I got a song for you guys while on break.
If you wake up and you brush with your Colgate, if you shower then you spray with your Axe spray, if you got 5 smooth playing in your room safe, you be sipping on some heavy Kool-Aid. If you got 22 spinning on your hoop day, if you got paid and you spend it on a milkshake, if you got Kanye bumping on the two-way, you be sipping on some heavy Kool-Aid. If you wake up and you brush with your Colgate, if you shower then you spray with your Axe spray, if you got 5 smooth playing in your room safe, you been sipping on some heavy Kool-Aid. If you got 22 spinning on your hoop day, if you got paid and you spending on a milkshake, if you got Lil Wayne bumping on the two-way, you been sipping on some heavy Kool-Aid. If you in a daze, let me tell you what the time is. It's time to break free of this subliminal confinement, this mass-produced, superficial, toxic environment, this government-subsidized mind control experiment. I know some are feeling it, others aren't hearing it. Some will just write me off, conspiracy theorists, but the fact remains, truth stays the truth. There's a mass-scale eugenics operation aimed at you. 9 out of 10 will be like, what's eugenics? And I'm like, oh, you know, the science of racial cleansing. That's some shit you need to look up when you get home, so you start to see what shampoo and cereal have in common. IG Farben and the corn from Taco Bell, Big Pharma got you chewing on some heavy shells, plus aspartame and the classic Coca-Cola. People get headaches when they do not drink that soda. Here's 1,000 milligrams of Ativan to help you focus, and you're close to remote control of the TV if you notice. It's a big screen, MKHD hypnosis, and most don't even see past the coaster. If you wake up and you brush with your Colgate, if you shower then you spray with your Axe spray, if you got 5 smooth playing in your room safe, you been sipping on some heavy Kool-Aid. If you got 22 spinning on your hoop day, if you got paid and you spend it on a milkshake, if you got Kanye bumping on your two-way, you been sipping on some heavy Kool-Aid.
If you happen to swallow more than is recommended for use with brushing, call poison control. Isn't that telling you something? That type of language border on insanity when you consider the fact that's what's found in 8 ounces of water from your fluoride treatment facility. And they recommend the pea-size. Commercials are killing me. Filling the whole brush up. I'd like to squeeze a tube down the CEO's throat and make him shut up. Back to the industrial waste plants. It don't even matter if it was used in concentration camps. The fact remains, fluoride is a poison used to attack your brains and put holes in your skull. Did you know that? It's the base compound found in your Prozac. And if you can't follow the speech, you're probably more docile than Dolly the sheep. Believe in everything your Rockefeller school said. These days an A+ is a fool's grade. What they talking, if you think it's the truth, then you're a fan of Kool-Aid, man, you're drinking the juice.
You wake up and you brush with your Colgate, if you shower then you spray with your Axe spray, if you got 5 smooth playing in your room safe, you been sipping on some heavy Kool-Aid. If you got 22 spinning on your hoop day, If you got paid and you spend it on a new check. If you got Kanye bumping on your two-way. You've been sipping on some heavy, heavy Kool-Aid. We're here to disrupt your stock program. Here to cut right through the onslaught of slogans. This ain't the mind control you hear on BET. You'll probably never see me or Pace on TV. That's strictly for the puppets that they use for what they selling, y'all. Bling, empty, sex, young money, Rockefeller, y'all. We try to warn them, but they care about nada. To entertain with Lil Wayne and Lady Gaga. And it's become ridiculous how dumbed down the scene is. Co-workers telling me that Lil Wayne's a genius. That's because the social engineers have got plans for. And people really got some low standards. But it's the kids to which they really try to cater. Brainwashed wannabes are calling me a hater. But I don't give a fuck, I tell it like it is, see? Way beyond these petty little suckers trying to diss me. I'm reaching to the open-minded, level-headed youth. Ready for some real music, starving for the truth. Revolution coming, and no matter what, the truth stays. Now stop sipping on that heavy, heavy Kool-Aid. If you wake up and you brush with your Colgate. If you shower, then you spray with your Axe spray. If you got Fox News playing in your room safe. You been sipping off the heavy, heavy Kool-Aid. If you got 22 spinning on your hoop day. If you got paid and you spend it on a new check. If you got Kanye bumping on your two-way. You been sipping on some heavy, heavy Kool-Aid.
And we are back. I decided not to go ahead with the second song. I'm ready for the second half, and I hope to get some callers in. This is Stabled Radio. This is Revolution Radio with your host, Chris J. And today is May 25th, 2014, and it is 9:15 here on the East Coast. And I know I should have done this all at the beginning of the show, but whatever. We're going to go ahead with the second half. And, well, I know I've talked about all the basic points about the Bilderberg Committee and the Bohemian Grove in the first half, and that's why I kind of just want the callers put your intake, or take your input into the show. And what else can I say about these organizations besides virtually getting together either to A, at the Bohemian Grove, to have their little fun and games, or B, the Bilderberg Committee, to actually organize how they're going to run the world. The Bilderberg Committee, I hope actually, like, one of these days I get to go to one of those Occupy Bilderberg events. I can't go for obvious reasons. I'm 16. Yeah, I can't really go anywhere, but yeah, for those reasons, I can't go to Occupy Bilderberg. When I'm 18, I plan on doing more of this kind of stuff where I can travel, but yeah, I hope some of you guys do go to Occupy Bilderberg, which I expect for you guys to do, because you guys did go in the past years to Occupy Bilderberg. But I don't know, actually, because I think the last time was closer, wasn't it, in Canada? This time it's in Copenhagen. So I keep forgetting that. I forget how far that was for a sec. Definitely, there should be some protests around San Francisco and the Bohemian Grove. There should be an Occupy Bohemian Grove event this year, which is always at the same place, always the same distance from wherever you live. And I live pretty far from it. I mean, I live all the way on the East Coast in Florida. But eventually I'll find a way to go there, because, anyways, I'm not going to be living in Florida past this year, maybe even. I mean, I don't plan on living here too much longer. And I'll tell you, anyone who does want to go to Florida, don't come here to live here, because it's really, when I say police state, it's a police state here. We have so many police for this little small town of Gulfport, which is it's a suburb of St. Pete. So it's not like in the country, but still, it's ridiculous. For a little teeny area, we have all these cops in this little town, and we have the red light cameras. We have all the intrusions of privacy here, and in Florida. It's ridiculous. It's all Orwellian police state type thing in Florida. It's definitely not what this place used to be, or what at least people think this place used to be. People think of it as like all of Florida was South Beach or something like that, and all big party town, which I think was somewhat true. That's what I hear from my dad said in the 80s, but not anymore. This place is pretty lame. And I tell you, get out of the United States if you can, because this place is like one of the major military. This is one of the future military dictatorships of the future when it comes to how it's gonna be very strict here soon. Yes, definitely get out of the United States if you can, and then try going somewhere like one of those non-Rothschild countries. There's one right there called Cuba. But I know some people wouldn't want to go there. Probably Spanish is not that hard to learn, so that's available, and that's Venezuela is available right there. And also, by the way, if you're a stoner, I tell you go to Venezuela, because Venezuela, they're pretty lenient on pot out there. But so that's a benefit for you guys out there. Telling just some places. We're going to run away from all this bullshit of the Bilderberg Committee controlling your country, Bilderberg picking your president, which some evidence shows that it goes down to that point where they literally, at the Bilderberg Committee, pick out the president. The elections are not even any bit real. I think that it could be possible that last part, the general election, might be real, but it doesn't matter if that part's real, because if the primaries are fake, then that doesn't matter. I think all of it is staged, and I think they probably do pick out your president right there at the Bilderberg Committee. That's the reality of the presidential election. It's not the Electoral College and all that stuff. But even if that system was real, I still think that's not exactly right either. I mean, I would have to ask what the Founding Fathers, all the logic to say about that. The Founding Fathers said it because they didn't want every person voting, I guess. People had no clue about politics, which is shorter than some people that would be literally, that guy is, I know a friend named John, I'll vote for that guy. I mean, there would be, at that time, a lot of people like that. I mean, nobody at the time knew a lot of these people, nobody compared to now knew the people in the election. I mean, all the people in the country couldn't tell you the two major candidates now. Now people could tell you, but they don't know anything about them. They know very little about them. So it's almost like the same as then. I think actually people might know a little bit more. The people who did actually follow politics knew way more about each candidate, and they had unbiased reports about them at that time. Unlike now, people rely on whatever the candidate's commercials about is what they believe the candidate's actually about, or what the other candidate said about the other candidate. That's real, which is not. Tell you, is that the president, the presidential election is definitely a rigged thing. I'm starting to think even the lower level elections might be rigged. I think a lot of evidence, so they make it that way with all the elections. All elections in this country via ballot access laws, where the people that are not the Democrats or the Republicans, if you're not in those two parties, they make it really hard for you because if you're in a third party, they make you where you have to get the petitions. You have to get people to sign a petition for you so you can get on the ballot and so people see your name and so they don't have to write you in. Independent, nobody ever votes for that. It just has kind of a bad name. It's the writing candidate. Nobody's going to go through the process of doing it. I mean, there's been some times where there's been success. Very little, though, where people are writing candidates. You have to get on that ballot one way or another because that's the only way we've ever had third parties in recent times ever win any election of any significance. One of the major ones in the recent time, and then people didn't realize how that was a very short time ago. That was just 20 years ago, where we had a person from a third party become a governor, And nowadays, that's nobody from a third party is the governor of any state. I'm hoping Libertarian Adrian Waugh becomes the governor of my state. It's kind of unlikely, but there's some polls are showing that he actually might have an edge over the other candidates, which is possible. But Jesse Ventura got to be the governor of Minnesota from the Reform Party at the time. So that there shows that it can happen. And Ventura, I think, could have been a real candidate. And I think that Ventura, actually might be the real deal, because I don't see him doing the tactics that Alex Jones does that makes him look like a fake and makes him lose all his credibility. How can you be taken credible when, you are there doing your rants and everything? That's all I can say about Alex Jones is the rants. Nobody takes him credible because of that. I know that it might be normal in other places, but he's American. I get if he was Latin or something like that, where that's very normal, and people think of that as normal, but he's American. You got to know that Americans don't dig that. They don't dig rants. They don't even like much emotion at all. It's not like when Hugo Chavez went up there yelling and did his, he did his speeches with a lot of passion and fervor. He'd be like, showing and all that stuff, and the style of his speeches, and you got tons of people love the way he spoke down in Venezuela because it's a different culture. But here, Jones's ways of ranting doesn't work. But yeah, Jones also has all his corporate sponsors. That's one of the things. He sells a lot of stuff, which I think that might be one of the ways they let him on air, because he sells stuff. He's got a lot of money behind him. Another thing is that he just puts a lot of stuff that's not true out there. And again, I was talking about Glenn Beck painting out the fake boogeyman. Jones talks about Israel. Unlike Beck will defend Israel. Jones talks about Israel every now and then, but he doesn't talk about them as one of the main people involved in this New World Order. He doesn't. He always puts the socialists and the communists, just like Glenn Beck does. And that's not. He's pointing out the fake people who are not really involved in the New World Order, especially the socialists. I mean, there's been authoritarian communists again. There's been socialists too, but no, he points out to a lot of people to be possible change too in this country, and he pretty much says that they're all phony because that political ideology that they're in, which there's a lot of people that would have that could present change in this country from that political ideology. At least, even though they probably wouldn't get to the point of being president. There are a few of them, I think, and definitely around the world, like Hugo Chavez or whatever. So again, it's painting out a fake boogeyman, and not going after the real root of the evil. He does go after the Bilderberg. Yes, I give him credit for that. Glenn Beck would never do that. Or going after, he does talk about the Bohemian Grove. So it's a little better than what Glenn Beck does. Another thing Alex Jones does that's not exactly good is I think that he I think he just goes off into just kind of weird tangents all the time. He goes into stuff that's not even that important. And then there's this family history and all that stuff. Anson Jones apparently is in his family. He always brags about his grandpa, or his that's actually going to be his great grandpa or something like that. Being one of the founders of Texas. And he also has, I think, sometimes a racist type deal, when he talks about immigrants. Yeah, again, I don't get that about immigration. Why is that the biggest deal ever? I mean, that's not one of the main things about the New World Order. Mexicans aren't the ones that are over there in the Bilderberg Committee deciding that, that they should crash your economy next year and it's time to pull the plug on your economy. It's not a bunch of Mexicans across the border go to the Bilderberg Committee. They're just trying to get jobs to leave that crappy place that the United States made crappy by supporting all that time. let's go all the way back to the 1910s with Mexico, when they had the Mexican Revolution. The United States made sure that they made sure that the leader that succeeded that would be on their side. That's when the PRI party took over from 1929 to 2000, 71 years of United States dictatorship. Just like I said, all Latin America, all South America, military dictatorships by the United States government. Same thing with Mexico. There was real rebels like the Zapatistas and others. And I think that pretty much the United States made sure that revolution went awry, turned into a fake revolution. You know, they pretty much took over and staged that revolution, because before it was controlled also by the United States and the United States military dictatorships in the past. You know, supported. I don't think they've had much of. They had an opinion on them, not much of one after the Alamo. There was kind of a period that the United States wasn't too involved in there. When the 1900 happens again, and then for all those times, 71 years just of best way to just describe it is stagnant economy that never picked up. Nothing happened there. Their economy went bad the whole time. It didn't really actually go bad. It never kept up with the modern times. They didn't have anything change. It's been stuck. Its economy's been stuck all the way back in the 1900s for a long time. And nowadays they put a couple factories here and there with like slave pay. That's not helping. That's how it's always been. They're just pretty much they put the few factories and put super low pay. Apparently, it's to stop immigration, whatever. Which I would say the best thing. You know what would stop immigration? The best way to stop immigration is actually help support a government in Mexico and Mexico City that actually cares about its people and actually helps them out so they don't have to run here to try to get a job, which doesn't work out here anyways. I mean, they are still poor when they come here. I think Mexicans would have a better chance of getting on a boat and going to Cuba and then try their luck there than they do with the United States nowadays with our terrible economy. I really do. Mexicans, I think a lot of them get, they get deceived into thinking the United States is going to be so great and they're going to automatically get a job or whatever. Instead, most of the places are going to be very racist towards them, and being Latin is one of these things that I have an opinion different than many truthers about. Is I really believe there is a war against Hispanics in this country. Hispanics have to toe a party line. If the Hispanics want any political influence, they have to toe the Marco Rubio political line. They don't like left-wing Hispanics in this country, but they don't like left-wing anybody in this country. Well, depends what kind of left-wing. If you're an Obama left-wing, of course. But they don't like the Chavista left-wing. And Obama's really just another right-wing corporate. Stephen Ron Paul said that. So they don't like the people like the Hugo Chavez supporters or whatever. They're just coming here to try to, boost their economic status or whatever. So they're going to discriminate against them. There's some places that have done successful things, but they don't talk about it. I think that the few successful things that have been done, I don't know, there hasn't been much done successful altogether. And they try to give them some jobs here and there. What should be done is if anybody wants a work visa, they should be able to come here real easily with a work visa, and come here. But here's the deal: they should be paid a good wage, so not everybody else's wages go down with it. Because that's one problem. That illegal immigrants actually, come in here, actually drop wages. So make them legal, not the deal where if they came here illegally, make them legal. give them work visa. Because if you give them a work visa, then they have documentation, and by that, the company have to pay them a minimum wage, that way everybody else's wages don't fall with them, which does happen. All right, what happens is they get fired because if you can hire that guy for no price for no money at all, then the other people getting the job, very low. I mean, if they can pay that guy $4 an hour, they're not going to pay somebody $8,000. So that everybody's else's economic chance to start to fall. I support more the libertarian way of dealing with the immigration problem. I don't know. I got into. Oh yeah, I was way back. I was like saying, how do I even get into this immigration talk? So I went to the Mexican Revolution. I was talking about that. I have talking just about. Why do people think that's such a big deal in this country? When they're the ones that are not, at the Bilderberg Committee, it's one of the smaller problems. Definitely. Compared to the Bilderberg Committee and all those other organizations that are practically, making sure DCs are all running on a script, and then there's people worrying about problems like immigration. Come on, please. Seriously, this is what a lot of people are concerned about. So the real issues, it's Boogeyman, and I was talking about Alex. That's why Alex Jones was talking about. Yeah, making fake Boogeymans instead of so you don't point at the Zionists or something like that. It's that tactic they do. It's so people ignore that big elephant in the room by making all this other stuff. Big Zionist elephant in the room, and also the Bilderberg elephant in the room. There's a few others that they just want you to ignore. That's one of their main tactics. It's been done forever. I mean, having people point at these people so they don't worry about the real deal. That is, of course, the media boogeyman tactic, like what they did with the Islamic extremists in the Middle East, but it's really made by the CIA, and that should be the real boogeyman, the CIA, not some Islamic extremist, terrorists that are not really even existent. The terrorists that Americans are thinking are out there. Anyways, I see we're in the last half hour of the show. I can't go too late tonight, but we're in the last half hour might go a little bit into the studio hour. But anyway, yeah, the last half hour to call in. So please, if you do want to call in, 347-205-9576. 347-205-9576. Another thing I want to address tonight is, I was talking about secret societies. People think that when our president, John F. Kennedy, the last real president of the United States, said about the monolithic conspiracy, and we was talking about how secret societies and secrecy are repugnant in a free society. People think they was talking about communism. Yes, he did address that in that same speech, but he specifically pointed out secret societies, secret courts. He was not talking about the communist system. He's talking about the system of secret societies. And I think that's kind of like the sheeple cop-out. They don't want to believe that Kennedy was actually talking about what he was talking about in that speech. It was secret societies. Just actually listen to that speech clearly if you don't believe that. And, yeah, JFK was our last real president. Probably by, of course, exposing the shadow government, which that's what I think I'm going to call the next show. One of the next shows, either next time or the time after that, I'm going to do a show called The Shadow Government. It's going to be all those organizations, and Kennedy exposed a few of them. And he was defying, again, the Tel Aviv, the Zionist elephant in the room. He defied Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv wanted to build an illegal nuclear weapons program. which, of course, is now leading to so many wars and really undermines peace in the Middle East. Now, it's not even possible with the Israel in there. With a nuclear-armed Israel makes peace in the Middle East impossible. He was going to send advisors to go in there to check out what Israel was doing, which I think that was a completely justified move, is to go in there and see what Israel was doing. And they were making the nuclear weapons program at that time, so Israel was partially responsible. There was all kinds of people responsible. Also, there was this one of the Tea Party saviors almost that a lot of people point out to that everybody thinks is so great is the Koch brothers. I'll tell you one thing, Koch brothers are a bunch of fakes. That, they made the John Bircher Society, who they say that super capitalism and communism are trying to make an NWO. I'll expose them right now. They're fake. The Koch brothers, like 2 days before Kennedy was shot, puts us in the newspaper saying wanted for treason, pretty much saying that Kennedy had committed treason somehow. See, if they were really real, they would know that Kennedy was working against the shadow government and the New World Order. And, again, they talk about the wrong people. It's more like fascism and authoritarian communism have made the NWO. That's more like it, not super capitalism, which I don't even know what. They are the definition of super capitalists. They're billionaires. They have like $24 billion, one of the Koch brothers, with their candy factory or something like that. The only reason they probably were talking at all is probably because they want this government that they probably want something that absolutely gives them I don't even know what they want. It's like no regulation, the authority can't even exist, and they probably who knows what they want. The Koch brothers just some fake group. I think they even made that stupid Republican super PAC, Americans for Prosperity. I think they sponsored the Tea Party in quotations. I mean, the Tea Party, like Rick Scott, that he says he's in the Tea Party. He's definitely not in the Tea Party. I live in Florida. This place ain't one bit free. Tea Party always claiming to be about libertarianism, but I think the Tea Party had a rift in it. There's the Republican Tea Party that I do not support one bit, and then there's the Libertarian Tea Party that I can support. The Tea Party I've been disillusioned with. One time I sort of liked it. I'll support the Libertarian Party, but not the Tea Party. The Tea Party, I've seen her kind of just another front for a Republican Party to try to regain a hold. I don't know. The Republicans are playing the same. It's not even that. They're just playing the game. They're the kind of just a false opposition or controlled opposition. That's the only way to describe them. They're like, I think Glenn Beck or whatever, controlled opposition. They're like the group. They're like that group. They're controlled opposition. I know we have 20 minutes left or so in the show, so I need more things I wanted to cover about. Bilderberg Committee. Well, again, I'll bring up the time frame of when it was created. It was created in the 40s, or actually the 50s, but the roots of it started in the 40s. It started meeting the 50s, and the 50s was a crucial time because that's when the New World Order almost got their plans, I think, of making a third world war between the Soviet Union and the United States. They were very close to starting one. There was times where we were very close to the whole world being destroyed. Let's say within seconds. So that was also in the 80s and the 60s. It was tense all throughout the time, but the 50s we were very close too. They had some stuff go wrong for them, the New World Order, at that time. I think that's why they really started in the 50s to go against the Soviet Union, because Stalin died in the 53. But for the most part, they were using Stalin to their advantage Stalin had pretty much done their deeds. What I mean by that is he disarmed the Soviet Union. He had already, he already had ready for the future society they wanted, the New World Order. But he also had aligned himself at one point with the United States. So now the U.S. and the Soviet Union were aligned. It looked like their New World Order would work. But then they realized Stalin was soon to be replaced by Khrushchev. And Khrushchev was a super anti-Stalinist. He did not like the United States and the West. He was against authoritarian. Not to say he was not authoritarian at all, but Khrushchev was against the super authoritarian communism seen under Stalin. I don't know if it was actually Khrushchev who lifted the gunman. He might have lifted the gunman too that Stalin had initiated in 1929. I've heard Stalin also lifted that himself. Khrushchev also was for peace in a multipolar world, which is totally against what the New World Order bankers want. The New World Order bankers want a unipolar world. Let's go back to the Vladimir Putin speech. That's what he called it, a unipolar, one source of power. And that's what he said he was extremely against. Khrushchev was also he was against the size of government that was before in the Soviet Union under Stalin, and he looked to make peace with the United States. And that stuff actually, a lot of people whose names had been dishonored under Stalin, that Stalin had pretty much put them into almost a blacklist, he lifted that off. Stuff significantly improved in Russia. But then I think that, I don't know, the New World Order had somewhat of a foothold in the Soviet Union. I think they had some of the Soviet Council, and they might have removed them. I don't know if it was the same deal like Kennedy. Instead of shooting them, they just removed Khrushchev from power. Khrushchev was forced to resign pretty much in '64, right after Kennedy was shot. And then, because they both opposed the unipolar world, they wanted, Soviet Union on one side of the world, that's on the other side of the world. They don't unite, but they're at peace with each other, not world war like LBJ wanted. It was the Vietnam War. Pretty much, we got very close with Southeast Asia. That sparked it into a nuclear war because we actually had direct confrontations with Soviet pilots there. It was a very direct confrontation with them. That was very close times to the nuclear war. And then in the 80s was Reagan. People think Reagan was a hero for civil liberties. Using the communist threat, he was able to start wiretapping all phone calls. And not only did he do that, he was, he brought it very close to the point of nuclear war, started trying to, he kept them trying to put in more military dictatorships in Latin America under the Contra rebels, did actively work in the cocaine trade. He finally got busted. The United States CIA got busted about the cocaine trade in the 80s, and it was revealed to the public that the United States was behind the cocaine trade. Also, a little interesting tidbit about Reagan is that his first name, Ronald, 6 letters. His second middle name, Wilson, 6 letters. His last name, Reagan, is 6 letters, 666. He was definitely not a man of any good, I'll tell you that. Ronald Reagan also, what he did, no matter what you think of the Soviet Union, whether it was brought up by the Zionists or whatever, and what you think about the Bolshevik Revolution, you have to agree that how they took it down caused so much pain and suffering in the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. Pretty much what they did is pretty much Gorbachev started a quick breakup of the Soviet Union. They pretty much paid him off to do that. Reagan paid him off to do that, and then they pretty much all they did was let all the economies free at once. They tried to do their shock therapy and all their false, all these terrible economic programs in Russia and everything. And then Russia and all those other countries fell into terrible poverty. Life expectancy dropped off. Millions starved. Women were whoring themselves out to other countries. That's when many Russian women went to the United States. Russia mail order brides. That kind of started then because they were running the United States for any money. Any rich people just they just ran out of the country because as soon as they got the chance, they got out of that sinking boat that was now caused by the elite that they made Russia. But then Putin, I think, he came to the rescue and has brought that boat out of the water that Russia was in '98. It was near the point it saw a collapse in '98. Russia's '98 was like America's 1932, just rock bottom. It was just a Great Depression in Russia in the '90s caused by Boris Yeltsin. Definitely a little NWO pawn. Gorbachev is still alive, and unfortunately, I think a lot of Russians think he should be hanged. I wouldn't really disagree with him on that. He caused a lot of suffering for Russia. And, again, the Bilderberg Committee was founded out of anti-communism. So I think that people who say that it's a communist New World Order, I think I've stated this a few times, it's not. Now, as they've used it as a tool, I'm not for communism. I'm for, what Chomsky advocates. It's kind of a pipe dream, I would say. I'm definitely for at least stepping to a free, libertarian country, like how America was in the 1800s, with this very small government. And then we can see what we can use, how efficient we can use that small government. Can we use it for the right things, like feeding the poor and that type of deal? Without getting oversized and having a bureaucracy like the Soviet Union had, or many communist countries have. And the bureaucracy starts to get extreme, but it's still better than what we have, where we have bureaucracy, but it only benefits corporations. Not there's no poor getting helped. What I'm just would hope is a small government that doesn't get too big, and then eventually starts to use it efficiently, and starts to move to a way where people are not starving. I think this country has always had a problem since the very beginning with poverty, but I think our corporatism and the big government got worse because fascism makes more people poor and makes the rich get even richer. It's pretty much the deal for every 1 billionaire, a ton of people have to get poor for that to happen. It's kind of almost like a simple economic concept almost, is that you can't make more money. More money doesn't get pumped into a society. It's just always the same amount of money and just gets transferred around to different people. Rich people have to take a bunch of it from the poor, and then they get it all for one person that once belonged to 100 different people. When you start to try to pump in new money like the Federal Reserve, it's still the same amount of money, and now this money is even more worthless. And then the super rich, like the people at the Federal Reserve, set the prices where it's in their favor. Now the poor people just have a bunch of, worthless money. Well, super rich don't invest in the dollar anymore. Super rich, they're invested in gold. They know what's up. They know the dollar's a sinking ship. They abandoned ship. I suggest everybody invest in gold, because every economist that's, most of the economists are predicting a dollar collapse to happen soon. It's a thing that will happen, and you know what the result's going to be. The Euro dollar. Once the Euro dollar comes, that means the North American Union's next. Which the North American Union is pretty much when they start to, when I think that the FEMA camps and all that start. Actually, FEMA camps has already started. I'll put that out there. FEMA camps are have already started, just that not all the people that, all dissidents and everybody are going yet. There's already homeless people going to FEMA camps at this time. There's already that happening. I think that's when all dissidents go. That's when everything starts to happen. That's when this turns into a military dictatorship. And to oversee the transition of either the gun collectivization, that's already started. So that's when they bring in the NATO troops or whatever, United Nations troops, the peacekeepers. They said that's what I thought it was going to be for the oversee the gun collectivization mission. They'll put some nice fancy word around it, but I don't think it's actually it'll be about that, because they already are doing that in many states. I think it's going to be about the Marrow Dollar, the North American Union, to see a peaceful transition or peaceful integration of Mexico, Canada, and the United States into one country. That's probably when they're going to bring all the NATO troops, and you're going to see them on the streets. It's going to be turned into a military dictatorship. It's going to be at the time martial law is declared. There might be martial law is declared here in the United States, and then they declare the whole North American Union, which declares on Mexico and Canada. I said get out the United States. You definitely do not run to those two countries, because those are just going to be exactly the same as the United States. In a situation in 10 years will be the same point. I mean, they're both going to be at a point where they're under a military dictatorship. Or, I mean, all three of them are going to be at a point where they're a military dictatorship, and they're all they're all the whole same. Everything will be the same. The whole same everything, honestly, because if you're under that Marrow Dollar in the North American Union, you're going to have, again, a bunch of Federal Reserve worthless paper, because it's probably still going to print the money out. They're probably just going to decide that the whole continent needs to be on the Federal Reserve notes, and that's what they're going to base the Marrow Dollar off of. The Marrow Dollar will be the currency for the North American Union after the dollar collapses, unless some alternate thing happens, and maybe they instead the Chinese yuan becomes the United States currency or something like that, and China becomes the owner of the United States. But I don't know, China. I don't think China is really going to own the United States at one point. Even though they already own all the ports and everything, I think it's just going to be the North American Union seems more likely. Because I think people would freak out on our Chinese rule, but North American Union looks like, oh, we acquired Canada and Mexico, that's good for America, even though they're no longer really America, even though it's the capital of D.C. and everything. And they still have the countries, even though there are no more borders, and it's called the North American Union, it's one whole country. It's kind of like what's the best example of this? It's like the European Union almost. It's like how they probably think in Germany or whatever. Oh, we have all this inputs all over the place here, but you're no longer are Germany anymore. Now you're part of the European Union. You are no longer have the sovereignty you used to. So that's how they're going to say, this is the only way to deal with the dollar collapse. They're going to say this is the only way to deal with immigration by this North American Union. Are making these continental-type structured governments all over the place. Well, yeah, all over the world. They're going to make like 5 of them. They already have the European Union, and they almost have the North American Union running. And then they're going to make the Pacific Union or Asian Union. They're going to make the African Union. And I don't know, South America, they look to be like a roadblock to the New World Order. Looks like they're going to try to deal with them somehow. And also that brings up the fact that the United States, with John Kerry, said that all options are on the table with Venezuela. That's not a good sign. It looks like they might try to invade them to strike at the heart of Bolivarian revolution, which is where kind of the main opposition to this New World Order is based out of. Is out of Caracas. So they're going to try to strike them so they can try to acquire South America and put them into the American Union or whatever. North American Union, maybe they'll have a South American Union. They have the African Union. I don't know how they're going to do that one. They're very divided politically. But maybe not as much anymore, considering the fact that they took out Libya and Sudan. They used to be non-Rothschild countries. But Libya is still the dust on himself in that. Gaddafi's family could still take charge of Libya. It's possible. Gaddafi's son is still alive. And the Green Army, which is Gaddafi's former troops, are still fighting to this day, 3 years later. There's still a chance that Gaddafi's old government could take charge again and just steer Libya back in the right direction. We can only hope, because they were a non-Rothschild country until 2011. Hopefully they can retake Libya and then kick out the Rothschilds once more, like Gaddafi did way back in the day. The Pacific Union, they're going to probably base that out of China, which I saw China's harassing Vietnam recently. There's been a lot of conflict between Vietnam, Philippines, and China recently. I don't know what that's exactly about, maritime disputes or whatever. But yeah, I think the Pacific Union would be based out of there. South Korea, China, South Korea, Japan. In Japan, I know now they've officially fallen back to fascism, like they were in World War II. They're back to those days. They got right. They had an agreement where they would not have an army that would be on offense, only an army to defend. But now they have broken that, and they have all these secrecy laws around Fukushima. It's back to the days of the 30s and 40s in Japan. South Korea, that's still very powerful, obviously. And then they have a non-Rothschild country. That's why they have demonized North Korea to the point that they have done it. You can't believe all the bullshit that Fox News tells you about North Korea. They don't all smoke meth. Like they tried. I think there was one that said that there was a meth problem in North Korea, and then they try to say that they burn Bibles. They don't do that stuff. It's all lies. I think more people burn Bibles here in the United States than they do in North Korea, and it's not by the government. The government allows churches to be open. People say that's heavily controlled, but I'll tell you one thing: the freaking leader himself, the first Kim Il Sung, was as a kid he was a Christian. He might not have been as an adult, but there was Christian influence in that family, and his parents were Christian, and they were revolutionaries. There's not the super anti-religious attitude like people think there is in North Korea. There's a lot of lies about that, and they don't have that terrible police state either. But yeah, there's some laws like that are ridiculous, but they're not even enforced, some of them. And also another thing about that. One of the deals is like they have is like the police are not even that aggressive like they are here in the United States. That's a lie that the police are these like military commandos that will come backflip off a truck and arrest you or something like that. I saw women call them names and stuff like that, and the police don't even respond. They're just like, they're talking. I'm just like, okay, just calm down. It's not like our police. They'll be like, they'd have already broken your neck and tased you by then. North Korea's police state is not that bad compared to the United States. Not a perfect country, of course, by any means, but no country is perfect. The only religious thing they might not like is probably the Catholics, because the Catholics throughout history have always been opposed to any left countries in the past. They always had this anti-communist attitude. Looks like Vietnam, they don't like them very much. They don't take too kindly to the Catholic Church. But I don't think they have any problems with Protestant people, with the Protestant churches. The attitude that the Catholics had in the past, they don't like. Yeah, so they prefer Protestants. Just go back to one more thing. I bet probably Bilderberg 2014, I bet one of the things is agitating a war between one of these countries, Iran and Israel. They're going to try to agitate a war between them, or South and North Korea trying to agitate a war between them, or agitate a war between Venezuela and Colombia, for the U.S. to get involved in. I think I've talked enough tonight about many different topics, and I remind you, Bilderberg, Tel Aviv, Bohemian Grove, if you want to see who really controls the world, look at those people. Don't go with the Glenn Beck, Alex Jones rhetoric. It's not going to exactly get us anywhere. And I'll leave you off with some music. Maybe leave you off some. Actually, you know what? Since I've talked enough about Tel Aviv today, I'll leave with a nice song for you guys. Here it is.
Point of no return and nobody can stop it. Malcolm Little when he knelt before Elijah Muhammad, the comet that killed the dinosaurs, changing the earth. They love to criticize, they always say I changed for the worse. Like prescription pills when you misusing them, nigga. The Templar Knights when they took Jerusalem, nigga, and figured out what was buried under Solomon's temple, Al-Aqsa. The name is not coincidental. I know too much, the government is trying to murder me. No coming back like cutting your wrists open vertically. How could the serpent be purposely put in charge of the country? Genetic engineered sickness spread amongst me. My people are so hungry that they attack without reason, like a fucking dog ripping off the hand that feeds them. Immortal technique is treason to the Patriot Act. So come and get me, motherfucker, cause I'm not coming back. This is the point from which I can never return, and if I back down now, then forever I burn. This is the point from which I can never retreat, cause if I turn back now, there can never be peace. This is the point from which I will die, succeed, live in the struggle. I know I'm alive when I bleed. From now on, it can never be the same as before.
Yo. Check.